Hello everyone, Charles Watts here, the Arsenal correspondent at Goal, joining you on Thursday, just 2 days away now from that big game at the Emirates, Arsenal versus Brighton. I shall be there, so keep your eyes peeled for all the usual pre-match stuff from me on that. We have now been given confirmation Mikel Arteta's press conference ahead of that game will be tomorrow afternoon, 1:30 p.m. So we should get the very latest from him in terms of some of the injury updates, most specifically on Thomas Partey. We obviously know what's going on with Kieran Tierney, but Thomas Partey we're not entirely sure on yet. They're still waiting for the full diagnosis on him and that thigh injury. Certainly not going to be involved this weekend. But and I can't imagine he'll be involved against Southampton either. But could he potentially be back for those big games against United and Chelsea that are coming up pretty quickly now? Fingers crossed he will be. But we will be hearing from Mikel Arteta about that tomorrow. So keep your eyes peeled for the press conference. But I wanted to start today's video. There's a bit of a rumour going around at the moment, or certainly some reports going around, kind of stemming from Spain about Marco Asensio, Real Madrid player, obviously 26-year-old. And there's some comments attributed to one of his representatives. I'll get that right in a minute. And lots of you have been sort of sending in questions to me saying, what have you heard about this? Is Arsenal in for Asensio? I can't give a definitive answer to that for that, I'm afraid. But just in terms of those agent comments, I would be a little bit wary about them, mainly because I speak to a lot of agents in this industry. It's part of the job, but it's very, very rare. Certainly when a transfer isn't in the public domain already. For one of them to kind of go on the record and start speaking about possible interest. A, because it doesn't always do much good to put it out in the public domain, with actual quotes. And B, it will just annoy the hell out of the club that's trying to potentially get a deal done. Now, Arsenal will definitely be working on deals for players right now for the summer, but they won't want agents going out and speaking about them on record, as in actually being quoted. So I'd be a little bit wary about them. And I'm not sure either that Asensio, as good a player as he is, I'm not sure that, from what I understand from people that I've spoken to about Arsenal, that sort of area isn't absolutely the priority right now. It depends obviously what happens with Nicolas Pepe in the summer. If Pepe goes, then maybe Arsenal will look for another wide forward. But as it stands, the priorities for Arsenal are very much the sort of central striking role and the central midfield role as well. So I'd be a little bit wary. I mean, the quote's doing around says Milan. It also says Milan are interested. It says Milan's interest is a prize, is a pride. A future in Milan is an option. There are also offers from a couple of English clubs, including Arsenal. We are ready to evaluate every possibility. Now, Asensio, he's gone off the. Is that fair? I'd say it's probably fair. When Asensio broke through, a few years ago, it was so exciting, wasn't he? He was keeping Bale out the team at that point, when Bale was playing well. Kind of gone a little bit off the boil, you would say, not quite sort of kicked on from that start and gone on to hit the heights that a lot of people were predicting. I think his buyout clause is something like 400 million or 450 million, something like that. Obviously, that won't be the price it would go for if he does go this summer. In fact, some of these reports are sort of quoting that Madrid are willing to accept 25 to 30 million, fairly similar to what they did for Martin Odegaard, a little bit less in fact. But I wouldn't be getting too excited about it right now when it comes to Asensio and Arsenal, if you were excited in the first place. But I can't tell you definitively right now that there's nothing in it, but I'd just be a little bit wary. A, because I know that Arsenal's priority areas at the moment do not include a kind of Asensio type player. Is very much more the sort of central striking options, or the more out and out. If you are going for a sort of wider forward, it's more not so much of a sort of wide midfielder, it's more of a wide hybrid forward who can also play in the central striking areas. A player like Ollie Watkins, for example. And I'm not saying Ollie Watkins is that player for Arsenal, but he's the type of player I'm talking about. He can play as a central striker, or he can play out wide, sort of coming in. Those are sort of players that Arsenal are very much prioritising this summer, and the central midfielder as well. So that's, for all of you who are getting in touch and asking about Asensio, that's my take on the current situation. I wouldn't be getting too excited about it right now if, like I said, you are actually excited about it. Okay, like I said, we are only about 48 hours away now from that big game against Brighton. It'll be very interesting to hear what Mikel Arteta has to say at his press conference yesterday in terms of what the mood has been like at London Colney after that really difficult night at Selhurst Park on Monday night. Not just the performance, not just the scoreline, but also the injuries. It's been a real sucker punch Monday night, and all that kind of momentum Arsenal built up, all that good form, and this is going to be a test. It's going to be really interesting to see how this young team respond. Can they get straight back on track, get the 3 points, and kind of put what happened at Selhurst Park to bed and make light of the injury issues? Or are they going to struggle? Is this going to be, we've seen it before in season, how seasons can be derailed almost by one bad result, one bad night. Arsenal have to ensure that is not the case this time around, because you can see the momentum at Tottenham at the moment. It's kind of shifted a little bit. It wasn't long ago that Tottenham didn't have any momentum. They were being very inconsistent. Arsenal were winning plenty of games and they had the consistency, but it's kind of flipped on its head now. Tottenham are winning games, they're scoring goals, they've got the momentum behind them, and it's Arsenal, after what happened on Monday night, who's suddenly looking like the team who might start slipping up a little bit. Hopefully that is not the case and Arsenal can get straight back on track against Brighton. That's why this game is so crucial. So it'll be very interesting to hear what Mikel Arteta has to say about that. He clearly has a lot of decisions to make going into that game against Brighton. I mean, who will start? For so long now, Arsenal, you can almost pick that team easily because, basically since 2022, Mikel's only used 12 players, really. A handful of others have got a few minutes, but really it's just 12 players who have been picked pretty much week in, week out. Now he's going to have to change that now because of these injuries. We know there's no Kieran Tierney, we know there's no Thomas Partey, there's still no Tomiyasu. So Mikel's got some decisions to make when it comes to who starts that game against Brighton for me, and most specifically obviously at left back and central midfield. Now, I spoke about this in yesterday's video. I think the left back one for me, and I know plenty of you disagree because I've seen a lot of your comments on what people are saying on social media, but I still think you stick with Nuno Tavares for this one. I just think any other option is going to create too much upheaval and it's going to be too, could almost be too distracting at this stage of the season. I've seen lots of people saying go to a back three, we've done it well, Rob Holding can come in, play in the middle, and then you can play Tavares as a wing back, and I understand that, it's a decent enough shout, but I don't know, everyone's so used to this 4-3-3 kind of system they're playing now, and I think if you also play with three at the back, then it kind of negates Martin Odegaard a little bit, because what you have the kind of three, if you want to call it 3-5-2, 3-4-3, whatever you want to call it, that kind of freedom role for Odegaard, because you'd have possibly, I don't know, if you go with three at the back, you'd have Lokonga and Xhaka ahead of them in midfield, but then where do you fit Odegaard into that? Because you'd have the two wing backs and then you'd have Saka, Martinelli and Lacazette, but where does Odegaard, it kind of denies him that freedom in the midfield role where he's been expressing himself so well. And yes, I know he had a bad game against Crystal Palace, but they all did. I'd still want Martin Odegaard starting when it comes to the Brighton game on Saturday, and I'm not sure if he goes three at the back that's going to suit him very well at all. I don't know where he fits into that, so that's not an option that I'd be looking at right now. I think certainly for this one, you keep Tavares, you keep the system you played recently. And other people have been play Cedric over there and play Ben White at right back, bring Rob Holding in. Again, it's just too much disruption. Then you've got two full-backs who are playing out of position. For me, that's just a no-go. The whole reason Tavares was bought was to be Kieran Tierney's understudy, to ensure that if Arsenal lost Tierney, like they did this stage last season, that they didn't really suffer from it. That's why Tavares was brought in. So now they've lost Tierney, so you play Tavares, surely. Yes, he's out of form. Yes, he's suffering a bit of crisis of confidence, but we saw what he was like when he first arrived. He was a decent player. Plenty of people were saying keep Tavares in and leave Tierney out when Tavares filled in for Tierney early in the season. He played really well. He has had some struggles, there's no doubt about it, but I think it's too early to rule him out right now. You've got to trust him a little bit. You've got to give him a chance. And also, home to Brighton kind of feels like a decent game for him, because you think Arsenal are going to see plenty of the ball. They're going to, they're home. They're going to, you would hope they're not going to be absolutely under pressure defensively. So I'd be sticking with Tavares in this one, and for me, you'd bring in Sambi Lokonga, drop Granit Xhaka back into that sort of deep line midfield role that Thomas Partey's been operating recently, and then you have Sambi and Martin Odegaard ahead of him, and then Saka, Martinelli, Lacazette, whatever you want to do. Although, there's a fair argument for Lacazette not starting this one, as I spoke about in yesterday's video. So plenty for Mikel to think about, and it'll be very interesting to hear what he's got to say at his press conference tomorrow. Team news latest, not too much more to give you other than what we spoke about yesterday. Obviously, no Kieran Tierney, no Tomiyasu. He's not going to be back until after the Southampton game at the very earliest. Although I still think it'll be unlikely to see him thrown straight back into the starting 11 after that. So it could still be about 3 weeks for Tomiyasu. Nicolas Pepe is expected to be okay. Obviously, he was out ill last week, or on Monday night. Fingers crossed that he will be okay to feature. I think that will be really important for Arsenal because you need that sort of game changer on the bench. Nicolas Pepe certainly is that. Thomas Partey, like we said, definitely not going to be playing this weekend. Probably, I can't imagine there's any way of playing against Southampton. I think you're looking at least about 3 weeks out. Basically, Arsenal still waiting to confirm the severity of this thigh injury. How bad is the strain? How bad is the tear? When they know that for sure, they can put a decent kind of timeline on it. We've seen how long Tomiyasu's been out with thigh injury. We know how long Partey was out with a thigh problem before, so it's not a quick fix. So although we're not sure yet, I think you can safely rule Thomas Partey out for the next couple of games at the very least, but potentially beyond, which isn't good news at all. But what it does do is certainly give Sambi Lokonga the opportunity to really, show why Arsenal signed him. Now, Sambi's been impressive, I think, when he played earlier this season. He played a lot more minutes that Arsenal were expecting. They wanted to give him this season to come here at such a young age, bed in, adjust to his new surroundings, adjust to playing for such a big club in a new city, a new country. But he had to kind of be thrown straight into the mix a little bit ahead of schedule. I thought he did very, very well, I have to say. He didn't absolutely tear things up, but I think you look at Sambi's sort of underlying stats for those performances at the start of the season, he was pretty decent for a young, inexperienced player. He's got an awful lot of quality, and I think he's going to be a top quality player. And this is a really good opportunity for him now. He's kind of been taken out the limelight a little bit the last few months. He's had to wait for his opportunity, only getting the odd substitute appearance really here or there, but he's got a really good opportunity now. A fair few of you have been saying, bring Mohamed El Neni and play him with Granit Xhaka in midfield. Not for me. I think now that Partey's out, this is what you signed Sambi for. You're giving him time. He's adjusted now. He's used to England. He's played in the Premier League earlier in the season. He knows what it takes, and this is the opportunity for him now to really make his mark. So I'd be absolutely playing. Like I said, you put Granit back into that deep line role that Thomas Partey's been playing in, and you move Sambi into one of those more advanced midfield 3 roles that basically where Granit's been playing for the last few weeks. And I've got a lot of confidence in Sambi that he can be a very good player. He can win the ball back well. He's very good. He's a decent passer of the ball. He can make things happen in midfield, and I'd be absolutely giving him a chance this week against Brighton. I'd be very disappointed if I turn up on Saturday and the team news gets announced on that Brighton game and it's Mohamed El Neni. I think that would be the easy option for Arteta, and I think the one you've got to go for is trust Sambi. That's why you signed him in the summer, and this is his opportunity now to really make his mark and show what he's about. And I'm convinced he's a very good player. And you just have to look at, like I said, look at some of the stats that are doing around when it comes to Sambi. Those appearances, those performances at the start of the season, they were pretty solid. And I'd certainly be pairing him now in midfield in that role that Granit has been operating in. Alright, that's about it for today's video. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. Like I said, press conference tomorrow, 1:30 PM. Mikel Arteta will be speaking, so keep your eyes peeled for that. I've got a piece going out on goal tomorrow, looking a little bit more in depth in the loss of Kieran Tierney and Thomas Partey, looking at what Arsenal could possibly do to fill the void of those two over the coming weeks. So keep your eyes peeled for that as well. And have a very good Thursday. We're approaching the weekend. Let's hope we can enjoy Arsenal on Saturday and 3 points follow. Have a good day, everyone. I'll speak to you soon.